I thought I had it all figured out, until one sentence shattered everything. It was a warm Saturday afternoon when I drove my family to the airport for what was supposed to be the vacation of a lifetime. My brother Adam, my younger sister Bella, my parents Thomas and Catherine, and me, Teresa, the reliable one. The one everyone always counted on but never really saw. We were on our way to Maui, Hawaii, a dream destination my parents had been hinting at for years. We had everything packed up in the car: sunscreen, Hawaiian shirts, the perfect itinerary I'd meticulously planned. It was supposed to be a family bonding trip, a chance to finally put aside our usual distractions and reconnect. My parents had insisted on this vacation, but deep down, I knew it was my initiative that had made it happen. I had researched the best resort, booked the flights, found the activities, organized the rentals, every little detail. I sacrificed time away from work and rearranged my schedule for this. And yet, the one thing I had not prepared for was how little they actually cared about me. It all started when we pulled up to the valet stand at the hotel. The warm Hawaiian breeze filled the air, carrying the faint scent of plumeria, and I felt the excitement rising in me. But as my family unloaded their bags, Adam, with that smug grin I had learned to tolerate over the years, said loudly, "Remember everyone, Teresa's just the driver." And everyone laughed. I smiled through the sting in my chest. They didn't see it. They never did. I wasn't just the reliable one, I was the invisible one. The one who made things happen, who did the work but was never included in the fun, never recognized for my efforts. I was always the background player in my own family's life. I wanted to scream, to confront them right then and there, but I kept it inside. The worst part? I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I had spent my whole life being their servant, their organizer, their unpaid travel agent, never questioning it because it was my role. My family's dynamics were deeply ingrained in me. We walked into the resort lobby, a paradise of tropical flowers and soaring ceilings, and everything looked perfect. It should have been the start of a dream vacation, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. And when my mother turned to me and said, "Teresa, dear, you're on your own for the room," it confirmed what I had feared all along. I wasn't just the driver, I wasn't even a proper guest. Growing up, I had always been the middle child. Adam, the oldest, was the golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. Bella, the youngest, was the baby who could do no wrong either. And then there was me, the one who was just there, the one who could always be counted on to help, but never to be celebrated. It started when I was young. My parents would dote on Adam for his achievements, whether it was his first football game touchdown or his acceptance into the family construction business. He was the firstborn, the one they expected the most from, and in return, he got the most attention. Bella, on the other hand, was a natural at making everyone feel like they needed to take care of her. She was sweet, charming, and always had this way of making people drop everything just to make her happy. And then there was me. I wasn't rebellious or difficult, I just wasn't the one who made waves. I did what needed to be done and kept quiet about it. I remember the first time I really noticed the difference. It was my high school graduation, and my parents were so preoccupied with Adam's new job in the family business that they barely acknowledged the fact that I was valedictorian. They were too busy talking about Adam's career prospects, his plans to take over the business someday. My moment was overshadowed by his future. No one even asked me what I had planned next, what college I was going to, or what scholarships I had received. The attention was all on him. That night at dinner, I had to listen to my parents proudly recount his latest achievements. I couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat when they casually mentioned my success without even asking about my plans. It was a small moment, but it stung. The thing is, I never really allowed myself to be hurt by it. I accepted it because that's what I was used to, being the background noise in everyone else's story. The pattern continued into adulthood. Adam was the one who got the most praise when it came to family decisions, even though I was the one who had the job, the education, and the steady career. I had climbed the corporate ladder on my own in Seattle, far away from the family drama, but whenever I came home, it was always about Adam and his construction deals or Bella's latest teaching achievements. My accomplishments, well, those were never discussed in depth. Oh, they'd acknowledge it briefly, with a "that's nice, Teresa," or "you've done so well for yourself." But it wasn't the same. It wasn't with the same level of pride or joy as they showed Adam. I had gotten used to being the reliable one. My parents relied on me to help with their taxes, manage their technology problems, and even plan family vacations. They never asked Adam to do those things. It was always me. And when I did things for them, it was always followed with, "You're so good at this, Teresa. We'd be lost without you." I know they didn't mean it in a hurtful way, but after a while, it began to feel like I was just a tool for their convenience. I became the person they called when they needed something fixed, whether it was their Wi-Fi, their car, or their vacation plans. But when it came time for them to give back, when it came time to celebrate my own successes or ask how I was doing, it was never as important as what Adam was up to. And then there was the comment from Bella, the one that stung the most. When I turned 30, my parents threw me a small birthday dinner. Bella leaned across the table, smiled at me, and said, "You know, Teresa, you're just so dependable. You've always been the one who keeps everything together. It's kind of funny how you're always in the background and we don't even notice it sometimes." The words were meant to be a compliment, but they felt like a knife in my chest. I couldn't even explain it to her. How could I? She didn't understand. No one did. I had spent so many years being the glue that held the family together, never asking for anything in return, but I was starting to feel resentful. My whole life had been about making things easier for others. I was the dependable one, the reliable one, the one no one really saw. It wasn't just that my family didn't see me. It was that they didn't really know me. They didn't know the late nights I had spent working on a presentation that would eventually win me a huge client. They didn't know the sacrifices I'd made to build the life I had, how I had given up relationships, vacations, and even my health to climb the ladder in my career. They didn't know how lonely I was. They didn't know that I had dreams of my own that never seemed to matter. But the worst part was that I never made them see me. I didn't stand up for myself. I allowed this pattern to continue because I didn't know how to break it. I was just the driver, was I? The one who always made sure everyone else got to where they needed to go. But no one ever asked where I was going. As the years went by, I slowly began to realize that I had let myself become invisible. I let my family see me only as the helper, the doer, the fixer. And I began to wonder, if I wasn't needed for those things, would they even see me at all? But I couldn't bring myself to ask that question. Not yet. It wasn't until the trip to Maui that I realized just how much I had been enabling this pattern. I should have known better, but I didn't, and I paid the price. The tension in the hotel lobby that day wasn't just about a room. It wasn't even about the fact that I had done all the work for this trip, sacrificing my time and energy, only to be excluded at the last minute. No, it was bigger than that. It was the culmination of years of being the background character in my own life. When my mother casually mentioned that I'd be staying in my own room, it felt like the final confirmation that I was nothing more than the planner, the organizer, the help. The way she said it, so matter-of-factly, with a slight smile on her face, sent a sharp pang through me. "Teresa, dear, you're on your own for the room." I stood frozen for a second. My gaze flickered between my parents, Adam and Bella. They were all standing there, smiling and talking as if this was normal. As if I was just, not part of the plan. My mother seemed oblivious, continuing to chat with the receptionist about the upgraded suite they had reserved for themselves. Meanwhile, Adam was checking his phone, occasionally throwing in his usual sarcastic remarks. Bella was absorbed in a conversation about her teaching schedule, her voice light and carefree. No one noticed me. No one noticed the hurt, the anger, the years of invisible labor and unnoticed effort. I stood there, feeling like I was vanishing into the background. I was about to walk away when I heard Adam's voice cut through the air. "You know, Teresa," he began, his voice dripping with that trademark smugness. "It's funny how you always organize everything for everyone else, but when it comes to your own stuff, you can't even book yourself a room." I turned to him, my body tense with the familiar frustration I had spent years suppressing. My eyes locked onto his, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look away. I didn't shrink back. "Funny how you think you're the only one who matters, Adam," I shot back, my voice shaking with emotion. "How about you stop talking like I'm just here to serve you? I'm your sister, not your assistant. I'm not your driver. And I'm done pretending that I am." The shock on Adam's face was almost comical. He stammered for a moment, then quickly recovered, of course. "Calm down, Teresa. It's not that big of a deal." I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The familiar urge to back down, to apologize and smooth things over was strong. But something inside me had shifted. No more, not this time. No, it is a big deal, Adam, I said, my voice rising. You've been treating me like I'm invisible for years. But I'm done being the reliable one who gets nothing in return. I'm done being the one who makes everything work for everyone else while getting nothing for myself. My parents shifted uncomfortably, glancing between me and Adam. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I wasn't done. You all have taken advantage of me for so long. And I let you. I let you because I thought I had to prove my worth to you. But no more. I deserve better than this. I deserve respect, and I'm not going to keep doing this dance just to keep the peace. Not anymore. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. My mother looked stunned, and for a moment no one said anything. Adam's face twisted into a mixture of annoyance and confusion. You've lost it, Teresa. You're being dramatic over nothing. But I wasn't being dramatic. Not this time. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care if they saw it that way. I'm not being dramatic, Adam, I said, my voice steady now. I'm standing up for myself. I'm setting a boundary. And if you can't respect that, then maybe this whole trip was a mistake. A silence fell over us. The weight of my words settled on the family like a storm cloud. It was my father who finally spoke, his voice low and cautious. Teresa, this isn't the time or place. Let's just all get settled in and talk about this later. But I couldn't do that anymore. No, I said firmly. I'm not just going to let this slide like I always do. I'm not going to apologize for having feelings anymore. I'm tired of pretending like I'm fine when I'm not. You all have treated me like I'm just the one who makes things happen, but I'm a person too. And I'm done being taken for granted. I turned away, the sting of their silence cutting through me. My heart was racing, and my head felt dizzy from the confrontation. But something else was there too, a sense of relief. Finally, I had said it. Finally, I had stopped hiding behind my role as the invisible, dependable one. I had stepped out from the shadow of my family and confronted them. And in that moment, I realized I had just taken the first step toward taking control of my own life. I needed to get out of there. Without another word, I walked toward the doors, my pulse still pounding in my ears. I didn't look back. I didn't need to see their reactions. I knew what they would be: shock, confusion, maybe even guilt. But it didn't matter anymore. As I stepped into the warm Hawaiian evening, I felt like I was finally breathing again. It was terrifying, but it was freeing at the same time. For the first time in years, I wasn't just the driver anymore. I was the one making decisions about my own life, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. But what came next was something I hadn't prepared for. I was driving with no destination in mind, my hands gripping the steering wheel with a tightness I couldn't shake. The words I had said to my family were still echoing in my head. It felt both liberating and terrifying at the same time. But I didn't regret it. Not yet. Not when I could still feel the weight of years of unspoken resentment lifting from my shoulders. The roads outside the resort were unfamiliar to me, but I welcomed the sense of escape. The winding coastal highway stretched ahead, with the ocean on one side and thick jungle on the other. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, the kind of scenery that usually brought a sense of calm. But not tonight. Not for me. I turned the radio dial mindlessly, but nothing could fill the void I felt in the pit of my stomach. Every time I thought about what had just happened, I felt a rush of anger and self-righteousness, followed by a wave of guilt. I wasn't used to standing up for myself. It was strange, uncomfortable, but necessary. I needed space, I told myself. A break from all of them. Maybe I'd drive until I was too tired to think, and then I'd figure out what to do next. But fate had other plans. As I drove further from the resort, the road narrowed. The trees grew denser, and the once beautiful coastal views turned into thick patches of darkness. The sun was nearly gone, and my mind, full of emotions, began to wander. I thought about my life, how much I had sacrificed for my family, how much of myself I had given up for them. But I also thought about the words I had said to Adam. The confrontation, the anger. Before I had time to process my thoughts, the headlights of a car ahead blinded me as it swerved into my lane. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The sound of screeching tires filled my ears as I veered to the side of the road to avoid a direct collision. My heart was in my throat, and everything seemed to happen in slow motion. The car skidded off the shoulder, narrowly missing a tree, and came to a stop on the gravel. The world outside felt eerily quiet after the chaos. The only sound was the harsh panting of my breath as I sat frozen in the driver's seat. My hands were shaking as I turned off the ignition. I sat there for a few moments trying to calm myself. What the hell had just happened? The car had nearly hit me. I could have died. I could have been gone. My chest tightened as I took in deep breaths. I couldn't believe what I had just experienced. The shock of the near miss hit me all at once. The other car, whoever it was, hadn't stopped. They had just sped away, and I was left sitting on the side of the road, my heart still racing. A wave of nausea swept over me. I wasn't even sure what was worse, the near-death experience or the realization that no one in my family would have even known. If I had died out here, would they even notice? Would they care? I couldn't shake the thought. It was in that moment, as the reality of the situation set in, that I realized something deeper. For all my family's talk about love and togetherness, I had never felt more alone. I had spent years trying to fit into a mold that wasn't mine, trying to be the perfect daughter, the perfect sister. But no matter how much I gave, it was never enough. It was always someone else's needs, someone else's expectations. It had taken nearly losing my life for me to see it. And it wasn't just that. It was the fact that no one had ever truly seen me, not the real me, the one with hopes, dreams, and fears, the one who had been living in the shadows of everyone else's lives. I opened the door of the car, my legs shaky as I stepped out into the cool evening air. I couldn't just stay here. I had to keep going. I had to take control. The accident had been a wake-up call. I pulled my phone from my bag, my fingers trembling as I tried to steady the device. I had no idea where I was, but I had to get out of here. I couldn't keep running in circles. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. I dialed the number I had been avoiding all day. James Sullivan, my friend from the marketing conference, had always been supportive. When I mentioned that I was going to Maui, she had made it clear that I could reach out if I needed anything. I didn't care about the time difference anymore. I needed someone who wouldn't judge me for what I was going through, someone who would simply listen. "Hey Teresa," James' voice came through on the other end of the line, surprised but welcoming. "Are you okay?" The tears I had been holding back came rushing to the surface. I hadn't expected it to hit me like this, but I was exhausted, physically, emotionally, and mentally. My hands shook as I spoke. "James, I need your help. I don't know what to do. I just need to get away. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I'm drowning." She didn't hesitate. "I'm here, what's going on?" I told her everything. The fight with my family, the years of neglect, the sacrifices I had made, and how I had just nearly died on the road. How my family would have gone on without me, and I would have just been another forgotten story in their lives. "You need to get out of there, Teresa," James said, her voice filled with understanding. "There's a place I know on the North Shore. It's peaceful, you can rest. You can clear your head. I'll text you the address." I breathed out, the weight on my chest easing slightly. For the first time in what felt like forever, someone cared. Someone saw me, not as the reliable one, not as the helper, but as me. "I'll drive there tonight," I said, my voice steadying. "Thank you." James gave me the address and assured me that I would be safe and welcome. I hung up the phone, feeling the tiniest flicker of hope ignite within me. The decision to leave wasn't easy, but it was necessary. For the first time in my life, I was making a choice for myself. And that was the first step toward finding who I was, apart from my family, apart from their expectations. I got back into the car, and with one last look at the dark highway behind me, I started the engine. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of where it would lead. The drive to James' place on the North Shore was meant to be a quiet, cathartic escape, but fate had a different plan. As I drove through the winding roads of Maui's more secluded parts, the darkness crept in faster than I anticipated. The stars above were nothing like the city lights I was used to, and the moon barely illuminated the path ahead. It was beautiful, but also isolating. And despite the peaceful silence that surrounded me, I couldn't shake the constant hum of anxiety in my chest. Then, in a moment of pure chaos, it happened. Out of nowhere, the headlights of another vehicle flooded my rearview mirror. I glanced in the mirror to see the car speeding up, too close, too fast. My heart leaped into my throat as I realized the driver wasn't slowing down. I barely had time to react when the car jerked sideways, brakes screeching, and suddenly I was fishtailing across the narrow, unlit road. For one terrifying moment, the world around me blurred. The car spun, my hands gripping the wheel with a desperation I had never known. The headlights of the other vehicle kept getting closer, and for a split second I thought, this is it. This is how it ends. Not in the comfort of family, not in the warmth of belonging, but here, alone, in a foreign land. But just as quickly as the chaos began, the world seemed to stop. The next thing I knew, my car came to a halt with a violent jerk. The engine sputtered and died as the car skidded to a stop along the side of the road. I sat there for a moment, my body frozen in shock, the air thick with the scent of burned rubber. Everything was eerily quiet now, save for the ringing in my ears. My breath came in short, shallow gasps as I processed what had just happened. I glanced around, my vision blurring, and all I could see was the dark stretch of road behind me and the dense jungle on either side. No sign of the other car. They were gone. It didn't make sense. Why didn't they stop? Did they even know what they had done? I snapped out of the stupor and quickly turned the key, but the engine sputtered once more before cutting out completely. My hands were shaking uncontrollably now as I tried to collect myself. There was no way I could just sit here. I wasn't ready to face what might have just happened. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers and dialed the first number that came to mind. James. My voice broke as I spoke into the phone. I had an accident. I don't know what happened, but... Teresa, James' voice cut in sharp with concern. Where are you? Are you okay? I don't know, I stammered. I think I'm fine, but I'm shaken. I don't know what to do. Okay, first things first. Stay where you are, don't move. I'll call someone to come get you, all right. I nodded even though she couldn't see me, trying to calm myself. But just as I was about to sit back in the seat, something hit me. The dizziness, the overwhelming nausea. It washed over me in waves, and before I knew it, I was on the verge of passing out. My vision blurred, the sides of my eyes darkening as I fought to keep control. Teresa, James' voice echoed through the phone. But it was too late. Everything went black. I woke up to the sterile smell of antiseptic and the steady beeping of a heart monitor. My eyes fluttered open, adjusting to the bright, harsh lights above me. I was no longer in my car. I wasn't even on the side of the road. I was in a hospital room. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through my side, forcing me to lie back down. I gasped, feeling disoriented and weak. My head felt like it was splitting in two, and I couldn't remember how I had gotten here. A soft voice spoke from the doorway. You're awake, how are you feeling? I turned my head slowly to see James standing there, a worried frown on her face. Her usual upbeat demeanor was replaced by a quiet concern. What happened? I asked, my voice hoarse. Are you feeling okay? James stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on mine. You're safe now. You had a pretty scary crash. You hit your head pretty hard, and we needed to bring you in for some tests. I glanced down at myself, noticing the IV in my arm and the bandages around my side. I don't even remember what happened. Don't worry about it right now, James said. You're going to be okay. I've called the doctors and they're coming in to check on you, but I want you to take a deep breath. You're going to be fine. But my mind was racing. I couldn't shake the image of that other car, whoever they were fleeing the scene. Did they even care? What if they didn't stop because they didn't care? It felt like a symbol of everything I had experienced with my family, always left behind, always unnoticed, always the one who was left to pick up the pieces. Before I could voice any of my questions, the door opened, and a doctor walked in, his white coat swishing as he approached the bed. He was tall, with sharp features and a calming presence. He glanced at the monitor, then at me. Good to see you awake, he said with a slight smile. How are we feeling? I'm not sure, dizzy, a little confused. That's normal after what you've been through, he said, sitting on the edge of the bed. He looked at my x-rays, then glanced back at me. We did a full scan. There are no broken bones or internal injuries, but you did take a hard hit to the head. That's why you're feeling disoriented. You may have some mild concussion symptoms, but I'm confident you'll recover. I nodded, trying to process what he was saying. It didn't feel real. None of it did. Can you tell me what happened? The doctor asked, his tone gentle. I was driving, I began, feeling the weight of the memory settle over me. And then, there was another car. It swerved into my lane. I tried to avoid it, but I lost control. And then everything went black. The doctor jotted down notes, then looked up at me with a reassuring smile. It's a good thing you were wearing your seatbelt. That likely prevented more serious injury. We'll keep you here for a while to monitor you, but I'm confident you'll be okay. My heart rate began to slow as I absorbed his words. I wasn't seriously injured. I wasn't dead. But something about the entire ordeal felt wrong. The accident itself felt like a warning, a sign I couldn't ignore anymore. Jane was still sitting beside me, her expression one of quiet support. You're lucky, she said softly. But I also think this is a turning point. You've been through so much, Teresa. Maybe it's time to let go of all that weight. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, this accident was the catalyst I needed to finally confront everything I had been running from. But it wasn't just about physical recovery. It was about something deeper. The scar that would remain, not on my body, but in my heart, the scar of always being the invisible one. And somehow, this accident was the wake-up call I needed. The road ahead was still unclear, but I knew I couldn't keep running. The days after the accident felt like a haze. I was in a hospital bed, bruised but alive, and the realization was beginning to sink in. I had almost died. The sheer randomness of it, the crash, the swerving car, the fact that no one even bothered to stop, kept playing on a loop in my mind. It wasn't just the accident itself that left me shaken. It was the deeper truth that I had been running from for so long. I had been running from myself. Jane, ever the steady friend, had stayed by my side throughout the ordeal. She insisted on checking in with me constantly, even bringing me soup from her favorite cafe in town. I think she could tell I wasn't just recovering physically. I was unraveling emotionally. I hadn't spoken to my family since the confrontation at the resort. No calls, no texts. I didn't want to hear from them. I didn't want to hear their excuses or their explanations for why I wasn't included in the room arrangements, why Adam had treated me like a punchline in his jokes, why my parents had sat idly by and let it happen. But a week later, just as I was beginning to feel like I could breathe again, my phone rang. It was a message from my mother. Teresa, we're worried about you. We need to talk. Please come home. I stared at the message for a long time before I finally replied. I don't think I'm ready to talk to you all just yet. I hit send and set the phone down, unable to shake the guilt that gnawed at my insides. Part of me wanted to forgive them, to go back to the way things were. I wanted to believe that the family I had tried so hard to be a part of would finally see me, but another part of me, the part that was starting to heal, knew I couldn't go back to that. Not yet. Later that night, Jane and I sat on the porch of her North Shore property, watching the waves crash against the rocks. The gentle breeze ruffled my hair, and for the first time in days I felt calm. Jane could sense my internal struggle. She always could. Have you thought about what you want to do with your family? She asked, her voice low and understanding. I sighed deeply, staring out at the ocean. I don't know if I can go back to the way things were, Jane. It's like, all this time I've been invisible. I've been the one who gets everything done, but no one ever asks how I'm doing. No one ever sees me. Jane took a deep breath. I get it, I really do, but you have to decide if you want to keep being the reliable one who never gets anything in return, or if you want to be seen, really seen, by yourself and by them. I knew what she was saying. She was right, but it didn't make it any easier. I had spent my whole life being the dependable one, the one who made everything happen, who helped everyone else without asking for anything in return. But now, I realized that I couldn't keep doing that. I couldn't keep giving so much of myself without ever getting anything back. It was like giving away pieces of me until there was nothing left. I think I need to set boundaries, I said, more to myself than to Jane. I can't keep letting them walk all over me, but I don't know how to do that without hurting them. You can't control how they react, Teresa, but you can control how you respond. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be treated with respect. Her words were simple, but they hit me hard. I had spent so long trying to please everyone, trying to hold everything together, that I had lost sight of what I needed. I needed to feel valued. I needed to stop being the one who was always left behind. The next day, I made a decision. I called my parents. It was time to confront them, to tell them the truth. I dialed the number and waited as the phone rang. When my mother picked up, her voice sounded hesitant, as if she had been waiting for this call. "Teresa," she said softly, "we've been so worried about you. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "But we need to talk, all of us." There was a pause on the other end. I could practically hear her scrambling to find the right words. "Teresa, please don't be angry. We didn't mean to make you feel like this. You've always been the reliable one. We didn't realize how much we were taking you for granted." I closed my eyes, my heart pounding. This was it. The moment of truth. The moment where I either stayed silent and let it all slide or spoke up for myself and made them see me for who I was. Not just the helper, not just the planner, but me. "I don't know if you truly understand what it's like, Mom," I said quietly. "I've been there for all of you, no matter what. I've organized every family vacation, helped with your technology issues, planned every holiday dinner. I've done it all, and I've never asked for anything in return. But I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I've given so much of myself, and it feels like you don't even notice." There was a long pause. When my mother spoke again, her voice was shaky, filled with guilt. "We're so sorry, Teresa. We never meant to make you feel that way. You're right. We've relied on you for everything, and we've never really seen you. We've taken you for granted." I could hear the remorse in her voice, and for the first time, I felt like she truly understood. It wasn't just an apology, it was an acknowledgement of my worth, of my humanity. "I'm not going to keep doing this," I said, my voice stronger now. "I love you all, but I need to put myself first. I need to stop being the one who fixes everything. I need to be seen. I need to be valued for who I am, not just for what I can do for you." There was silence on the other end, but this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a quiet understanding. "I get it, Teresa," my mother finally said. "We will do better, I promise." I hung up the phone, feeling a weight lift off my chest. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was the start of something new. I had set a boundary. I had spoken my truth, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't apologizing for it. Jane was there when I hung up. She smiled at me, proud of the strength I had found. "You did it," she said softly. "You're finally taking control." And in that moment, I realized something important. Setting boundaries wasn't about shutting people out, it was about making space for myself. It was about finally stepping into my own life, my own story, and taking the wheel. For once, I wasn't just the driver. I was the one in control of the destination. It was a few weeks after that phone call with my mother. I had gone through the motions of recovery, physically healing from the accident, taking some time off to decompress, and letting the emotional storm settle. But even though the immediate confrontation had lifted some weight off my shoulders, I knew the deeper work was just beginning. I could feel it in every part of me. The need to be seen, to be valued, not for what I could do for others, but for who I truly was, wasn't just something I could fix in one conversation or one phone call. The road to reclaiming my sense of self-worth, to repairing my relationship with my family, and even to learning to be comfortable in my own skin, was long. I started therapy soon after the confrontation with my family. Jane had suggested it, and after everything that had happened, I knew she was right. I had spent so much of my life living for others, constantly trying to prove myself, constantly giving and never asking for anything in return. I needed help understanding why I had let myself fade into the background for so long. Why I had accepted the role of being invisible, the one who made everything happen but never got to enjoy the fruits of her own labor. The therapist was kind, understanding, and not at all what I expected. She didn't push me to rush into forgiveness or to give my family a pass for their behavior. Instead, we spent time unraveling the patterns in my life, my family dynamics, my own need to please, and the guilt I felt for wanting to set boundaries. I didn't realize how deeply these patterns ran until we dug into them. It was like peeling away layers of a wound I had covered up for years. And through therapy, I learned something important. It wasn't just about my family. It was about me. I had to forgive myself for allowing things to continue for so long. I had to stop blaming myself for their behavior, and I had to stop seeing myself as the one who had to fix everything. It was difficult. Every session felt like stepping deeper into a place I had avoided for so long. But each time I left the office, I felt lighter, more aware, more whole. It was clear that the physical scars from the accident would fade with time, but the emotional scars, the ones from years of neglect, from being the invisible one, those would take longer to heal. One of the hardest parts was facing my family again. I had set my boundaries, but now I needed to hold them. It wasn't easy. They didn't fully understand at first, but I stood firm and I continued to set clear boundaries. I stopped doing things for them just because I felt obligated. I said no when I needed to. And slowly, over time, I noticed a change. They started to see me, not just as the one who helped, not just as the background character, but as me. The woman with her own needs, her own dreams, and her own worth. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes my parents would slip back into their old ways, expecting me to pick up the slack. Sometimes Adam would make another snide comment, but I didn't let it slide. I would call them out, gently but firmly. And in doing so, I began to find a new version of myself, one who wasn't afraid to be seen, one who wasn't afraid to take up space. And as for Adam, he was harder to deal with. It took him longer to truly understand. His apologies were half-hearted at first, but I didn't accept them until they came with accountability. I made it clear that his treatment of me, his constant belittling and dismissiveness, was not okay. He wasn't the golden child anymore. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. It took time, but eventually he came around. Slowly, Adam started to respect me in ways he never had before. It wasn't a complete transformation overnight, but I could see the shift. The boundaries I had set became something he respected. He learned to stop taking advantage of me, and for the first time in my life, I felt like we were finally on equal footing. One afternoon, a few months after my trip to Maui, I met with Bella for coffee. The change between us was palpable. She had always been the peacemaker, the one who tried to avoid conflict. But this time, she looked me in the eye and said something that I hadn't expected. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, and I want to apologize. I should have stood up for you more. I've always just gone along with whatever Adam said or did. I never realized how much I was letting you down." Her words hit me like a wave. I had always thought of Bella as the sweet, innocent one, the one who didn't mean any harm, but hearing her own confession, her willingness to acknowledge her part in my invisibility, meant more than I could say. It meant that she was finally seeing me. For the first time, Bella wasn't just accepting the status quo. She was actively trying to change. "I appreciate that, Bella," I said softly, my voice thick with emotion. "I just need you to see me, for me, not just as the one who fixes everything." And for the first time in years, I felt like she truly understood. The family dynamics were still a work in progress, but I had made incredible strides. I was no longer the one who faded into the background. I was no longer the one who stayed silent. I was the one who took control. I was the one who said no when I needed to, who made sure my needs were met. And most importantly, I was the one who learned to love myself, not because of what I could do for others, but because of who I was. I didn't just survive my family's neglect and the toxic patterns I had allowed to persist for years. I thrived. And I knew, deep down, that I had learned the most important lesson of all. I was worthy of being seen, of being loved, and of being valued, not just for what I could do, but for who I truly was. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like you were the invisible one in your family or in your life? How did you learn to set boundaries and stand up for yourself? Drop a comment below and share your story with me. And if you found this story empowering, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about finding your worth and reclaiming your life. Remember, you are never just the driver in your own story. You are the one who decides where you go. Take the wheel and steer toward your own happiness.